It's 5 a.m.-ish. I'm still half asleep, and I have no recollection of how I actually got here. Welcome to Terminal 8 at the John F. Kennedy Airport. Looks like I'm a little early, as usual. Anyway, my name is Scott. I run a little blog called SANspotter.com, and I'm here at JFK this morning to catch American Airlines flight number 179 to San Francisco in Flagship business class on the Airbus A321T. As you will see, it's a pretty nice way to fly across the country. But before I show you what that is like, I'm going to show you the American Airlines Flagship Lounge and everything it has to offer. Access to this lounge is just one of the perks you'll get with a ticket in Flagship business class, and trust me when I say this, it's one of the best lounges in the American Airlines network. It's just kind of a shame that my brain is still in the process of booting up, and I probably won't enjoy this as much as I would if I was firing on all cylinders. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The food in the Flagship lounge never disappoints. I went with a steaming hot plate of scrambled eggs, chicken sausage, and orange juice, which was probably slightly irresponsible of me since they are going to be serving a full breakfast on the airplane as well. I pre-ordered the oatmeal though, so can you really blame me for picking out while I still have the opportunity to do so? As far as the lounge itself, it's really nice, and if you get lucky and time your visit when it's quiet like this, it's totally worth it. I can tell you from experience, though, that it's absolutely not worth it when every seat is taken and every third person is a business traveler on a Zoom call. You're far better off hanging out in a quiet corner of the main terminal instead. Which is exactly where I'm headed because, well, the eggs are kicking my ass and I need to go walk this off. If you ever want to tell someone that you're in Terminal 8 at JFK without actually telling them that you're in Terminal 8 at JFK, a picture or video of this sculpture ought to do it. It's nice to see this thing again, but that's not why I'm here. Looks like it's going to be gate 46 this morning, and as usual, I'm early. However, one benefit of being early this morning was that I got to see our plane arrive, which was extra fun because, wait for it, boom. Job well done. Here inside Terminal 8, it's just about as quiet as it was back in the lounge. It's kind of eerie, actually. Where is everyone? I'm not complaining, though, because I like it quiet, and I'm starting to get the sense that it's going to be another very empty flight today. And I think I was right. They just called for everyone to board at once, which can only mean one thing. An extremely empty flight. Not that it really matters for me since I'll be seated in business class, but even business class snobs pray for empty seats next to them on long flights as well. Ain't nobody immune to being antisocial. We meet again, old friend. Even though this is the first time that I have ever tried American Airlines Flagship business class on the A321T, this is not the first time that I've got to sit in these seats. This is actually a very common business class seat that you'll find on many other airlines. For example, Delta has some 757-200s with these exact same seats, and they sell that as Delta One. Here on American Airlines, it's Flagship business class, and I can't think of many bad things to say about them, except for how impossible it is to reach all of these plugs and ports. It's not often that I'll injure myself getting footage for an airline review, but twisting my neck around just now to get that shot pulled some muscles in my head that I didn't even know I had. Oh, another downside to these seats is that they are slightly staggered, which means that the person in the aisle seat will be looking over your shoulder for the entire flight. The window seats are not for the paranoid, and since this is Flagship business class, we got amenity kits. Digging through it, there were no surprises, other than the fact that I wasn't expecting it at all. I thought they only did this in first class, so it was kind of fun to lay everything out and pretend to feel fancy, if just for a moment. And speaking of feeling fancy, the boarding door is now closed, and it looks like I'm going to have plenty of room to spread out and claim both of these seats as mine for the next 6 hours. Let's back up for a second here. No pun intended. In typical SANspotter fashion, I just realized that I never really explained what an American Airlines A321T is. The A321T is a small subfleet of aircraft that American Airlines has configured to be very premium heavy, and they are used exclusively on transcontinental flights from New York's Kennedy Airport to San Francisco and Los Angeles. Sometimes they fly them in and out of Boston as well, but it just depends on market demand. Anyway, these aircraft feature 10 Flagship first-class seats, 20 Flagship business class seats, and just 72 economy seats. These are not typical American Airlines A321s, and I just wanted to make that clear before you book first class on a standard A321 from Dallas to Oklahoma City, expecting lie flat seats and amenity kits. I'm just trying to avoid the possibility of having everyone think that the SANspotter guy that they saw on YouTube is full of shit. Scheduled flying time over to San Francisco today is just a tick over 6 hours, which I'd have to imagine is pushing the limits of this A321. Makes no difference to me though. I've done long-haul international flights in these seats before, and I already know that 6 hours is going to be a piece of cake. Anyway, I've got a few things to show you before the breakfast service starts. First up are these noise-canceling headphones, which have some nice heft to them. And heft, at least when it comes to audio equipment, is a good thing. I think. I'll be the first to admit that I don't know anything about high-end audio equipment, but they felt good, and they sounded good, so yeah. As far as the video screen goes, it was alright. The American Airlines Inflight Entertainment UI is decent, though it does require a lot of full arm swiping, and the screen itself isn't always completely responsive, so you're gonna need some patience. Something else I noticed as I was poking around the screen was that I might not actually be on the right flight. A quick look at the in-flight map confirmed that, yep, we are pointed directly at Los Angeles, not San Francisco. Oh well. Given how buggy the rest of the software is, who really knows where this airplane is going to end up? And now we've reached the portion of the video that most of you have skipped ahead to, the meal service. Here in American Airlines Flagship Business Class, the food is probably the highlight of the entire experience. They kicked things off this morning with drinks and a light snack, which I didn't eat more than a bite of because, well, you saw what I did in the lounge earlier. From there, everything was served in courses, starting with this mango-heavy fruit salad, which, in my opinion, is the way fruit salad ought to be served. There ain't no such thing as too much mango, in my opinion. And then, here's where I screwed up. I pre-ordered the oatmeal when I purchased this ticket, nearly breaking my arm trying to pat myself on the back for making healthy choices. Maybe I was just being naive, but I wasn't expecting an incredibly rich and sugary dish that tasted more like dessert than breakfast. Was it wrong of me to expect a healthy bowl of steel-cut oats? Of course this was really good, and I ate it all, and yep, I totally could have eaten another bowl of it, but come on, man. I didn't realize it at the time, but I just flushed a toilet 5 miles directly over top of the house that I grew up in. Shout out to all my old friends down there in Holly, Michigan, by the way. For anyone wondering if American Airlines Flagship Business Class is a good place to get some work done, you'll be very happy to know that yes, it is. It's also a fantastic place for avoiding work altogether, especially thanks to the blankets and pillows they provide. It's high quality stuff. I did find the cabin temperature to be a bit too warm for my liking, and the blanket wasn't really necessary, but it's either this or work, and I'm starting to come down from that sugar high, so a little extra warmth isn't going to stop me from being as lazy as possible. Yeah, this is nice. I can certainly think of worse places to be right now. One final bit of adjustment here, cut the lights, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Well, that was nice. I got a good 2 hours of deep sleep, and the descent into SFO, will begin shortly. Frankly, I don't even care where we end up. As long as it's coastal California, it shouldn't be all that difficult to figure out a way to get the rest of the way home to San Diego. So, by now, you're probably asking yourself, Scott, is American Airlines A321 Flagship business class really worth it? And my answer to that would be, it kind of depends. If it's cheaper than JetBlue Mint, or if you just gotta have lounge access, then this is certainly the way to go. However, if the cost is the same, or maybe higher, and you can live without the lounge experience, I'm gonna choose JetBlue Mint all day long. You'll get far better food on JetBlue, a more private seat, free Wi-Fi, and better in-flight entertainment. And this is completely subjective, and totally based on my own personal experience, but I find JetBlue cabin crews to be more enthusiastic about what they do. The cabin crew on this flight was fantastic, by the way, so it's kind of a hard comparison to make with any real certainty. And wouldn't you know it, we landed in San Francisco after all, even though the in-flight map was insisting that we still had an hour and 9 minutes to go until our arrival in Los Angeles. At least the weather here looks to be very LA-like, so I'm sure everyone on this plane hoping for LA instead of San Francisco had something to be satisfied about. Shout out to all the SANspotter patrons, by the way. I hope you're all enjoying the merch and the extra content that I publish from time to time. And even if you aren't, I won't be offended by it. I do know that I am an acquired taste. To Aaron Slater, Neil from the Moment in the Sky YouTube channel, David Kelly, Riley Wingo, and everyone else, thank you. And that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on American Airlines Flagship Business Class. Other than the miscommunication about the oatmeal and the uncertainty of being on the wrong flight, I quite enjoyed this. Not enough to choose it over JetBlue Mint, though. I mean, come on. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.